on YouTube. Okay, so good morning to everybody. We are finished the first comment of the Mishnah Berurah on Reish Vav, which was not a short comment, and that was dealing with the machloket between the Rishonim about this whole topic about whether or not you can rent out your kalim, your vessels, to a non-Jew on Friday. There was a brisa that said that, and you can look if you want an aleph, if you want to review it for yourself. Well, yaskir kelev la'eno Yehudi be'erev Shabbos, that on Erev Shabbos, on Friday, you're not allowed to rent out your kalim to a non-Jew. Even though they're going to do their own thing. It's not work for me. They're doing their own thing. Obviously, they're paying me for usage. But Wednesday and Thursday, it's mutter. And so there was the approach of the Rambam and the Rif. They said that the whole prohibition that's in this brisa is because of shvisas kalim, that your kalim have to rest on Shabbos, which is following the opinion of Beis Shammai. And this brisa was according to Beis Shammai, which is why the Rambam and the Rif completely ignore this when it comes time to codifying halacha. They basically say there's no issue at all. Friday afternoon, no problem. You can rent it out because it has nothing to do with Shabbos. They're paying you for the rental. Everybody agrees. Obviously, you can't have a rental period that only includes Shabbos. It has to be Shabbos plus, whether it's Friday, Saturday, whether it's an hour before Shabbos, an hour after Shabbos. It can't only be on Shabbos because then it's Schar Shabbos. It's a separate problem. And that's the opinion of the Rif and the Rambam. The other opinion, which was the opinion of Rabbeinu Yonah, and as well others were in his camp. Many of the Ashkenazi Rishonim were in his camp. His approach to this was, no, this brisa is according to everybody, meaning Beis Hillel also. Beis Hillel, who says that we're not Mitzuva al shvisas kalim. When there's no command to have your kalim rest on Shabbos. Even he says that this brisa is relevant to Beis Hillel, which means that we have to deal with this. What's going on here? And the reason, according to Rabbeinu Yonah, is that when you are moser your kalim, you hand over your kalim to a non-Jew Erev Shabbos on Friday. So you have an issue here where it looks like, and as we all worked out last week, thank you to all of you, it kind of looks like it has a feel of they're your shaliach on Friday, like they're giving it to them Friday afternoon, and they're going to do their own thing, but it feels, it kind of feels and looks a certain way to yourself, not so much to other people. Nobody knows the arrangement that you've made, and it's clear that we're not dealing with what other people are thinking, but it looks like it's mechzi, what was his word here? I just want to use his words, not mine.
Do you realize what you made me do?
What?
You made.
Okay, I don't know what's going on here. This is making me distressed a little bit.
What's that?
I have no idea.
Oh.
I'm going to do something here. Okay. Hopefully they weren't actually here for this year. Okay. Sorry. So he says that it's like merci keshlucho, and that's why we have a problem here. That was the and Masha Enkein on Wednesday and Thursday. So he ends off by saying it doesn't feel quite as much like a shlichus situation. Obviously, it's not actually a shlichus situation, but it doesn't even feel anything like a shlichus situation. So that's where this all starts from. Here you go, Michael. Okay.
Even if he's doing that whole concept bothers me. He's doing his own work.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with it. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the shlichut?
Right. So, right.
How could you even feel that?
how could you feel like it's a shlichus situation? I just, I got rid of my kalim, but I don't know. I'm not even checking up on him. I don't care about it. He'll give it back to me. Yeah.
I'm not asking them to.
Yeah. So look, that's the advantage of the Rif and the Rambam's approach, which is to say that this was a shvisas kalim mission. That's why this brisa was according to the teachings of Beis Shammai and not relevant to us, and that's why the first opinion that's cited in the Shulchan Aruch is it's mutar lahashil lahaskir Caleb le'eno Yehudi, even if it's right, even if they're going to do work on Shabbos with it, etc. But you'll see in a moment. We read last week the Ramah. I think we read about Ramah last week. I don't want to give it away, but the Ramah seems to say that we should follow the second opinion of Rabbeinu Yonah, which would actually have implications as a bottom line in terms of what you can do Friday with regards to your belongings.
Can I set my Shabbos clock on Friday? I mean, that's the same problem.
So can I set my Shabbos clock on? So the problem, not a problem. The difference is that though actually, Rav Moshe, I think I mentioned this here at some point. Rav Moshe was not fond of the Shabbos clock. He didn't think it was mutter. Why? Because he thought it was basically like Amir al-Nachri. I'm telling somebody, I'm setting it in motion
if
to
you're
do something.
talking about your inanimate objects doing things.
Right.
Yeah,
The basis of this, animals have to rest on Shabbos.
Correct. And then it was a question whether or not the extension should go to the Kalim. Right.
The question if there's any extension of that.
Correct. According to Beis Hillel, we follow Beis Hillel. There is no extension of that to Kalim.
Yeah, and that's not Shabbos clock. That's just.
Correct. So here you have a statement. Here you have a statement of it kind of looks like shlichus. So you don't have that obviously when it comes to your alarm clock or whatever, your Shabbos clock. There's no shlichus. There you set something into motion so that it will happen on Shabbos. Which, by the way, there is some precedent in the Talmud for setting something into motion. Now, not that you would do it before Shabbos or on Shabbos, but the issue of grama is that something gets set into motion and it happens at a slightly later point. But here, this is a very, distinct. Sorry, it's very clear brisa. It's talking about one case, which is, giving your kalim to a non-Jew Friday afternoon, and it looks like they're a shaliach. Are they? They're absolutely not a shaliach. It's an issa d'Rabbanan, and as you guys helped me point out last week, it's not a Marasayin issue. It's actually you view yourself almost, it kind of feels to yourself as they're your shaliach. Yeah, Michael, go ahead. Vessels means like belongings. Your belongings. Yeah.
I think instruments.
Yeah, instruments.
In a way, I think that the rabbi is correct. Because what do you need a Shabbos
No, the light goes on, light goes off, you have lights, let's say you want lights to be on in a particular room and off at a certain point. So you set a Shabbos timer, and it goes on and off.
But in the days of him or a little further or prior to him, did they have the...
To Rav Moshe Feinstein?
Rav Moshe Feinstein.
Of course, yeah, the timer was...
They had timers prior to
To prior Rav Moshe, yeah, I think they had timers already before Rav Moshe. Rav Moshe, there wasn't a theoretical question. Yeah, he was. Yeah, but the Jewish people spoke against him though, with their feet.
So
Look what the people are doing.
Exactly.
So he's saying, and they're saying that the Shabbos clock was okay, and he's saying the Shabbos clock is not okay.
Yeah, there were other rabbis too who said it was fine, but Rav Moshe was not he was not a fan of it, and he wasn't a minor figure either. And it's interesting that sometimes what he said sort of stuck around, and sometimes the Jewish people, the Minhag Yisrael ended up being different.
If the clock's on the battery, just want to finish this off, but if the clock is on the battery, I can understand the state.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go to base. Okay. So if you just remember back up on top, we start the Yesh Omer, the second opinion, which is of Rabbeinu Yonah, that this applies to Kalim She'osin Bahem Malacha, the types of vessels that are used for, or instruments that are used to do, the prohibited labors on Shabbos. You give an example there, right? Kagon macharesha. Okay, you have a plow. V'chayotzeba, and things like a plow. Obviously, plowing is one of the 39 malachos. That's an easy one. So to give somebody a plow, I get that. Look what the Mishnah Berurah writes in base. V'chayotzeba, and things like this. Kagon rechaim v'chol klei umonus. A mill also would be, let's say, a hand mill. So you're grinding things. That's obviously the type of vessel that we're talking about here, which you can do malacha with. And any kind of, klei umnus is, things that are specialty, tools and vessels that are used to do whatever their trade is. V'ayin b'pri megadim, dehu adin kelim she'ein osin be'atzman melacha. And this is an interesting extension. I actually did not check. I should have checked the Aruch HaShulchan when I was preparing yesterday. I did not. So I have to do my homework to make sure by next week that I have an answer on this question, which is that the Pri Megadim was Sanachron. He extends this prohibition of which types of kalim you can't, rent out. You can't rent out, even if it's not that they themselves are doing the malacha. Let's say you have a big vat in which beer or alcoholic beverages are made there, and so they're doing. Let's say they're heating it up, they're cooking, whatever. I don't know. Again, whatever the process is, there's probably some malacha involved in here. And let's say you have a big vat. The vat doesn't do the malacha. The fire does the malacha. Whatever it is, whatever the malacha is, it's just a big pot that holds something essentially. But it's a pot that is almost exclusively used to do prohibited labors on Shabbos, though it's not the vessel by which the malacha is done, like a plow. Oh, kedera shemevashlimba, or a pot that is used for cooking, right? You could technically use a pot as a place to store. What was that? As a paperweight, exactly. Thank you. Or you could store some. Utensils in it. You don't have to use a pot to cook, but the normal usage of a pot is to cook. He extends it to such things as well. Since at the end of the day, the non-Jew is going to use it for malacha. So michse kishlucho shal Yisrael. Again, it has this appearance as if they're, the shaliach, the extension of the Jew with regards to this malacha. So when Rabbeinu Yonah gives this example of the macharesha, which is being quoted here, and he says similar things, what is he trying to exclude? What does he say? Now you've made this category so wide and expansive. It could be either a kli which you do malacha, or any kli with which malacha is done to it. So what is he trying to exclude by saying v'chayotzeba? Isn't everything in this category essentially? He says no. If I give you my robe, my cloak, and things like that, where it's not at all used typically to do a malacha, then I can rent it to you 5 minutes before Shabbos. So if they want to rent, my jacket, my suit. Let's say I'm in the business of renting tuxedos. It's not a problem. I can rent the tuxedo an hour before Shabbos. They have an event, so I need my tuxedo.
To be using it at an event, that's, what's the difference?
Yeah.
So the actual tuxedo, though, there's no malacha involved, like touching the tuxedo,
You may iron it.
He may, right, but that's, so, but it is, so long as it's not used in a, yeah, exactly. So long as it's its normal usage is not, like, they could obviously use it in a certain way. You could take a chaluk and you say, I'm very cold right now, throw it into the fireplace and you can have fuel to the fire. It's not the normal usage. I think here we're sort of following, it's normal to use an oversized vat to produce alcohol in it. It's normal to use a pot to cook it. Yes, you could use a pot as a paperweight, right? You want to keep the, trying to remember now. I haven't gotten a newspaper in person in a long time anymore. Everything's on the internet. I can't remember. Like, don't you have to sometimes or it's like magazines that get rolled up when they come in the mail, and it's so annoying sometimes, and it's like it's closing all the time on you, and you just take whatever, you just kind of stick it on there because you want to keep the thing open. It's not newspapers. I don't know. It's magazines. I don't remember. Just having that remember that or experience of sometimes it's books are always closing on you or something like that. So you could use a pot, but it's not normal. So that's why.
What they're saying.
And I'm not sure, by the way, that everyone would extend this. That's why I want to look, because the Pri Megadim here, I don't know if he took liberties to extend the principle a little too far.
So what we're saying is you cannot facilitate a non-Jew to be breaking Shabbat rules for his own purpose.
Only on Friday when it comes to renting. We'll see in a moment borrowing, which probably a lot of our interactions maybe with our non-Jewish neighbors, they want to borrow something. Can I borrow your fill in the blank, right? So we're going to see in a moment, that's fine. Can I borrow your lawnmower? Lawnmower, it's a malacha. That's it's a daraisa to do. Oh, it's okay. That if they take my lawnmower, they borrow it for Shabbos. We'll talk about on Shabbos. That's a little much more complicated if they borrow it on Shabbos. Yeah. So
You can't rent it to it on
No.
Friday.
On Friday, no. According to the second opinion, which the Ashkenazim, we'll see in a moment here, the Ramah seems to hold like that approach. I don't know what the Sephardic minhag is. I don't know. I don't know if they follow the first opinion.
There has to be a time limit as to when rent or whatever you're doing. Because the person comes in, it takes time to get the item and bring it home. So after a certain hour.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Let's go to Gimel now. Okay. This Gimel is dealing with the issue of Havlah, which everybody agrees to. You can't just only rent something out on Shabbos, even if it's a talis, right? So it's a cloak. I think he actually, maybe he doesn't do that example here, but even if it's just a talis, you can't do that because then your schar Shabbos is a separate issue. Okay, behavla avalito schar Shabbos lechud afilu bechlish. Oh, here he says it. Afilu bechlish ein osim b'malacha. Even if it's a kli that you don't do any malacha with it, like a shirt, a jacket, right? O shemaske lo cheder la durbo. Or I rent out on Friday a room. They need a place. I rent them a room. The room doesn't do malacha. Just giving them a place to sleep. So Aser Lakuli Alma, everyone would say that that's problematic. As we'll get to against Shin Vav is another simon that talks about the things that it's again this kind of category of things you can do and you can't say and can do. Erev Shabbos, on Shabbos, more like what you can say and what you can do. Not so much about malacha. We'll get there when we get there. But bottom line is here, this is not a controversial issue. Everyone agrees Havlah is how you have to do this. It has to be in a larger group, not just on Shabbos. Interesting question that was brought up here in the Dirshu edition of the Mishnah Berurah. What happens if you own a hotel?
Just
I was
thinking
going
about
to ask
that.
that question.
Okay, so you own a hotel. And the person comes for one night stay. All right, if they come for multiple nights, no big deal. But the person non-Jew comes for a one night, or I guess even a Jew, by the way, comes for a one night stay Friday night. You own the hotel. Don't ask me how you own the hotel over Shabbos. I don't want to go back to that whole thing. but let's say you're just renting out a room. Let's make this very simple. Right? Which is, by the way, makes it much more. It's not a crazy thing to be able to say you own a hotel if you're just renting a room. I don't know. But let's just say he talked about here, L'shalem avur
Got an
schirus.
Airbnb in your house.
Airbnb, modern day Shaila. Yes, correct. L'shalem avur schirus cheder bebeis malon. What to say here about payment, for the rental, essentially, for the usage of the room in the hotel. So he quotes here from the Shilos Teshuvos, Shlomo. I don't know who this is. He's a Shlomo Zalman Aruch, and he has Shilos Teshuvos. I thought it was a different name though. I'm not sure who this is, but he quotes here, Kevin Shenod Lavo Levote Malon Kodem HaShabbos, which is not always true. So he claims that they arrive before Shabbos. They arrive before Shabbos, And maybe they stay a little late also after Shabbos on Saturday night. Then it's okay. I guess they also pay for hotzaos are like other expenses, right? What was that? Outlays, right? So it says here that the whole thing is like a schar Shabbos b'havla. So I guess there's other things that are involved in this as well. So he says, okay, this is interesting. I'm not. The reason I would have said that this should be okay, it's a little related to this. I think the technical answer is that when you stay in a hotel, typically, the time that you can check in is 3, 4 o'clock. It's usually most places in the world, that's before Shabbos. Now they choose to come at 8 o'clock at night, but if they reserve the room, it's really technically their room. They come at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I have to give them the room. It has to be ready. I put a time on my website that says check-in is at 4. So just because they choose to come later, which is for me Shabbos, and so they only were here over Shabbos. And so you're saying, the money is the money for the hotel room is only on for the time on Shabbos. It's not true because they really technically have it from beforehand. Even if let's say they check out Saturday morning. So I think that's really the way you get around it. That's where you have your before Shabbos and on Shabbos. So I don't know if anybody here is in the hotel business, but I just saved you. Was it? Yeah. The only other question is sometimes this happens. Like somebody you pull up to a hotel, and you say, I just want a room. It's 10 o'clock at night. They're just tired. I need a place to crash for the night. They're not booked up. Can they get the room? I wonder if that's fine. Because again, technically you could have had it earlier if you had showed up. I don't know though, because there you didn't. I think if you reserve though from the beginning, I think you have good grounds to say that it's not a problem. I don't know about the second case. So my gut said it's probably fine, but I
Time was again, 4 o'clock is usually, let's say, the Shabbos is, if you're stuck on the road for some reason, you have to traffic or whatever, you can't get in. There should be a way of doing it. That's one. Two is, you brought that up, you have brought that up where there's 2 people running. So to get rid of that problem is you take the non-Jew to take care of the business on a Friday to the end of Shabbos. All the monies get taken care of at the end. The person is Jewish that's coming in. Take care of the business there after Shabbat.
Right. So if they're there till after Shabbos, then of course that also deals with the whole problem. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Let's take a look at the next comment here. Dalad. So Dalad is talking about borrowing, according to everybody, is mutter even erev Shabbos. There is no revach, and that's why in the case of renting, it feels a little bit like shlichus, a little bit, because you're profiting off of this, and so they're a little bit of. It feels a little bit like they're an extension. This is a shlichus. They're doing something for you, and you got some profit out of it. Even that's already a little bit. That's pushing, the rabbis, according to the Rabbeinu Yonah approach, the rabbis forbade that. But if there's no revach, then there's nothing to talk about. You can only talk about a shaliach when you're getting something out of it. But that's not happening here. Even if they're borrowing just for the period of Shabbos day, so they come to you 10 minutes before Shabbos, and they say, "Can I borrow your lawnmower? I'm going to mow the lawn tomorrow morning." They tell me I'm going to mow it from 9 to 11. Okay, so that's fine. I feel okay. Even if they're going to do malacha with it, it's totally fine. There's no isser here. And to be very technical, the brisa only says lo yaskir adam. So there is no reason to think you should extend it, even if you say the brisa is to be interpreted like Rabbeinu Yonah. Velo Amrina, and this is talking about the Ramah. Remember, Ramah says the Iker Kasvara Achona. He thinks we should paskin like the second opinion, like Rabbeinu Yonah. But he says it's mutter lahashielo erev Shabbos, even if the payment is that you'll let me borrow something in return. This is, and we don't say that that's kischirus. We don't view that like schirus. And so the Mishnah Berurah here comments the hainu sha'afal pisha eno mash'ilo chinam. It's not exactly you're letting them borrow it for free. Ki im b'schar sheyashilenu achar kach. It's the payment essentially is that you'll let me borrow something, when I need it, or maybe you're even very particular about it. He says here. It's not exactly, with the way that we would rent something, where you would say, because you're saying, if you say, so let's say you say, I'll give you such and such, and you, so in order that you'll allow me to borrow from you your particular kli, so that's mutter. Because it's not the derech schirus mamish. It doesn't get, once you have to think of the brisa always. Does it fit under the brisa's category? And the answer is technically no. And so here there's no reason to extend it, particularly according to Rabbeinu Yonah, whose interpretation is already kind of interesting. There is no reason to start fiddling and think that we can, put another thing under that category of an isser. He says no, it's not a problem. Whatsoever. Okay, I will stop here. We'll do Bays next time. The next thing we'll deal with is can I have my non-Jewish neighbor borrow from me on Shabbos, or what about 2 minutes before Shabbos, where let's say they want to borrow a large item and it's going to take them some time. They got to get their friend with the truck and the dolly, and they're going to have to move it out. By the time they get it off my property, it's already Shabbos. Here, our good friend of Marisayan is going to rear his ugly head again, because this will deal with the problem of people who will walk by on Shabbos now. We'll see, why are they wheeling that thing off, from their property on Shabbos? And so this deals with on Shabbos, and even though, let's say the agreement or the rental, the agreement to borrow happened before Shabbos, it has to be that they are able to get it off your property before Shabbos, or at least have enough time. So we'll talk about all these issues next week.